There's someone in your life who triggers you, not just annoys you, triggers you. The moment they speak, something in your nervous system fires. Your jaw tightens, your chest constricts. You feel a visceral, almost allergic reaction before they've even finished their sentence. You'll probably spend considerable energy analyzing what's wrong with them. Their arrogance, their neediness, their chaos, their control. But here's what most people never consider. The intensity of your reaction isn't measuring their behavior. It's measuring something unfinished inside you. Carl Jung, the Swiss psychiatrist, who spent decades mapping the unconscious mind, called this phenomenon projection. He wrote, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." What if your most difficult relationships aren't obstacles to your goals, but the laboratories for it?
My name is Jing, and I need to tell you something before we start, because I think it matters who you're learning from. A few years ago, I went through something that changed the entire architecture of my life. It started with a plant medicine experience that cracked something open I didn't know were sealed, and then not long after, a Kundalini awakening that made the first experience look like a gentle warm-up. I had language for neither of them at the time. What I did have was the aftermath. And in the aftermath, I kept noticing something strange happening in my relationships. The same conflicts kept appearing, different people, same wound, same trigger, different face. And I couldn't figure out if it was a spiritual thing, a psychology thing, or just evidence that something was fundamentally broken in me.
Turns out it was none of those things. It was one of the most documented patterns in psychology, and there was a real research behind it. Research that the spiritual community almost never talks about. That research changed how I saw everything. I'm not alone in this. I'm part of a community of hundreds of people who've gone through the same terrain. Ceremonial experiences, Kundalini awakenings, spontaneous spiritual openings, and who are navigating the part that comes after, not the peak, the return, the messy, non-linear nobody warned me about. Stage that most integration content completely skips. That's what this channel, the Catalyst Arc, is built around. I'm not a therapist, I'm not a shaman, I'm someone who has lived this, who is in community with people living it, and who takes the research seriously enough to cite it. That's what you will get here. Disclaimer. This video explores psychological research on shadow projection and relationship patterns. It's for educational purpose only, and it's not a substitute for therapy or professional support. If what comes up feels too large to hold alone, resources are in description. We'll cover 5 things. First, the anatomy of friction. Why certain people create an immediate visceral reaction in your nervous system. Second, the shadow projection map. How the traits you despise most in others are often suppressed part of your own psyche. Third, the look of recurring characters. Why you keep encountering the same person, different face. Fourth, tools for radical integration. Practical techniques for working with mirror relationships. And fifth, the sovereignty of integrated self. What happens when you finally own what you've been projecting? Think about the person who triggers you the most. I mean the person who creates an allergy reaction in your nervous system. The one where before your conscious mind has even processed what they said, your body has already mobilized for battle. Jaw clenches, stomach tightens, heart rate elevates. This is your autonomic nervous system responding to a perceived threat. And here's what's interesting. The threat isn't necessarily the person in front of you. The threat is what they are awakening inside you. There's a concept we might call social mirroring. The idea that external conflicts often serve as a real-time broadcast of internal unrest. The person triggering you isn't creating the disturbance. They are revealing one that already exists. Think of it this way. If someone accuses you of something you already genuinely don't relate to, you might feel confused or even amused, but not triggered. The trigger happens when the accusation lands somewhere tender, somewhere unresolved. Jung put it directly, we do not make projections. Rather, they happen to us. Here's the shift that changes everything. Instead of auditing their behavior, start auditing the intensity of your reaction. Their behavior is data point 1, your reaction is data point 2. And often, data point 2 tells you more about your inner world than data point 1 tells you about them. Ask yourself, is my reaction proportional to what actually happened? Or is something older, something deeper being activated? If your reaction feels disproportionate, congratulations, you found a thread worth pulling. Every child comes into the world whole, containing everything: assertiveness and gentleness, ambition and contentment, anger and peace, wellness and discipline. But very quickly we learn which parts are acceptable and which parts need to be hidden. Maybe anger wasn't safe in your household, so you learn to suppress it. Maybe ambition was seen as selfish, so you learn to dim it. Maybe neediness was met with rejection, so you learn to bury it. Carl Jung named this collection of rejected quality the shadow, the part of the psyche containing everything we've disowned. The shadow isn't evil, it's just everything you've taught wasn't allowed. The psyche doesn't like internal conflict, so when we encounter qualities in ourselves that we've rejected, we don't just suppress them, we project them outward. We see them in other people instead. Jung's student Marie-Louise von Franz noted that projection arises from fear of unknown, but simultaneously serve as an entrance to self-understanding. This is why the arrogance you can't stand in your colleague might be your own unexpressed confidence, labeled bad somewhere in your history. The neediness that repels you in a friend might be your own unmet needs, taught to hide behind a mask of independence. The chaos you judge in your sibling might be your own suppressed spontaneity, locked away when you learn that being responsible was the only acceptable option. Here's a practice that can be uncomfortable but illuminating. Identify your current interpersonal villain, the person who embodies the trait you find most intolerable. Now trace backward. How did you first learn that this trait was unacceptable? Was there a moment, a look, a punishment, a withdrawal of love, when you understood that this quality had to go? The line often runs straight from the historical moment you abandon that trait in yourself to the present-day person who triggers you by expressing it freely. Your villain isn't just annoying you. They're living out something you buried long ago. You probably noticed the pattern. New city, same type of friend drama. New job, same type of difficult boss. New relationship, same feeling by month 3. This isn't bad luck. This is what Sigmund Freud called repetition compulsion, the unconscious drive to recreate unresolved situations from our past. Freud believed we don't simply remember our past, we repeat it, especially the painful parts. Think of your subconscious as a casting director with one script it keeps trying to produce. The script was written in childhood. The original cast, your parents, caregivers, early authority figures, delivered certain lines, played certain roles. And now your subconscious keeps casting new actors for the same parts. Research on attachment and repetition compulsion confirms this pattern. Those who experienced emotional unavailability as children often unconsciously seek out emotional unavailable parent as adults. Those who were controlled often find themselves in relationships with controlling people. Those who were abandoned keep encountering situations that recreate abandonment. The unconscious hope, this time will be different. This time I'll get the love I didn't get. The unconscious result, the same play, different actors, same painful conclusion. The shift happens when you move from being a victim of repetitive drama to become an investigator of your own relational blueprints. Instead of asking, why does this keep happening to me? Ask, what am I unconsciously seeking? What familiar feeling am I recreating? What part of me is still trying to recreate an old script? Once you see the loop, you can choose differently. 3 tools for working with the people who trigger you. To 1, flip the script. Take the trait you condemn most in someone else, write it down. Now find its hidden utility. Every trait you despise has an adaptive shadow side, a version of that quality that might actually serve you. Selfish might flip to able to set boundaries. Controlling might flip to able to take charge when needed. Needy might flip to able to ask for help and receive support. Cold might flip to able to maintain emotional boundaries under pressure. The question is, what quality are they expressing, perhaps in distorted form, that you've cut yourself off from? When you feel the trigger, the jaw tightening, the chest constricting, the urge to attack or withdraw, pause. Step 1, name it internally. I'm activated right now. My nervous system perceives a threat. Step 2, grunt physically. Feel your feet on the floor. Notice the weight of your body. Take 1 slow breath. Step 3, create space. You don't have to respond immediately. Say, I need a moment, or let me think about that. This isn't about suppressing your reaction. It's about creating enough pause to choose your response consciously. Next time you're in a charged interaction, treat it as a session for self-inquiry. Instead of how do I win this argument, ask, which part of me is reacting right now? How old does this feel like? 5 years old? 15? Last week? What does this part of me need? Not from them, but from me. The person in front of you becomes a mirror, not someone to defeat, but a surface reflecting something back about your inner world. This doesn't mean they're right. This doesn't mean their behavior is acceptable. It means that regardless of what they are doing, you have an opportunity to learn something about yourself. There's a phenomenon that happens when you fully own the projected quality. The person who embodied it loses their charge. Jung called this withdrawing the projection. When you consciously integrate a disowned part of yourself, you no longer need to see it exclusively in others. Jung, the best political, social, and spiritual work we can do is to withdraw the projection of our own shadow onto others. The arrogant colleague who infuriated you might still be arrogant, but your nervous system no longer catches fire around them. This doesn't mean you now like everyone. Some people are genuinely harmful, and boundaries remain essential. But the compulsive charge, the allergic reaction, dissolves. Integration creates a new foundation for relationships. Instead of unconscious projection, where you see your partner as a screen for your hopes and fears, you develop conscious reflection. You see them, not the version of them your psyche created. Intimacy becomes possible because you are no longer in relationships with your projections. You are in relationship with the actual person. Here's the final reframe. Relationships aren't battlegrounds. They are laboratories. Every difficult person in your life is offering you data. Data about what you've rejected, what you are still seeking, what you haven't integrated. This doesn't make them right. It doesn't exclude harm. But it does mean that no relationship is wasted, including the painful ones. The people who triggered you most are showing you exactly where your growth edges are. If you recognized yourself in this video, if you have someone in your life who creates that visceral, almost allergic reaction, consider this. They might not be your obstacle. They might be your curriculum. The shadow you've been projecting on them belongs to you. Not because you're the same as them, because they're showing you a quality you've cut yourself off from. The recurring characters you keep encountering aren't coincidence. They are your subconscious trying to resolve something old by staging it again and again. You have a choice. You can keep fighting the mirror, keep blaming the reflection, keep encountering the same pattern with different faces. Or you can turn inward, claim what's being projected, integrate what's being rejected, become whole enough that your antagonists lose their power over you. The mirror effect ends when you finally see yourself in it. Now you know what the mirror is showing you. But here's the part most people skip. Knowing the pattern doesn't break it. You can understand shadow projection completely, feel the insight land, and then 6 months later find yourself in the exact same dynamic with a completely different person. It's not a failure of self-awareness. That's what happens when understanding stops at the intellectual level and never becomes integration. The next video in this series breaks down exactly why that happens. Why escape feels like progress but nothing actually changes. And the 3 specific mechanisms that research shows actually move the needle. It's called Why Escaping Never Works. It's linked on screen right now. The return stage roadmap is free in the description. It maps out the full integration process so you are not doing this blind. I'll see you in the next one.